Maybe. There we go. All right. Share my screen for a second. This is the February 12th, 2025 virtual meeting of the Lunenburg Open Space Committee. Mike Toohill, the chair. Anna Lockwood is here. Anna.
I here.
Tim Lawless is with us. You have to say aye.
Sorry, aye.
That's okay. Anna reminded me since we're remote and recording, we need to actually do a roll call. And
Got it.
Glenn McLeod is with us.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, we have a quorum this evening, which is great. I was hoping to have Eric join us because he's doing such a fabulous job on the minutes, but he's not with us. Could I get a volunteer to take the minutes for the meeting, please? Everybody jump on it.
Glenn, I think that's a great opportunity for you to.
Actually, I was thinking this. Your name came to my mind. That's weird.
English is my second language. Like, I'm gonna use that card as long as I can.
All right, I'll do my best, but I'm a fan of brief minutes, if that's okay.
That's
Oh, we
fine with
love
us,
those.
Glenn. It's you can take the agenda and put a sentence after each one, and I'm good with it. Okay.
10-4. Got
All
it.
right. So we have a couple of guests with us this evening. Dave Passios is with us, and Jennifer Duffy. We'll be talking to both of them later on for item number 3. So I've called the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live by Lunenburg Public Access via Channel 8 and on the Facebook Live page. Obviously, we're on Zoom as well, and in 24 hours, it will be on the YouTube channel. And we're holding this meeting remotely in conformance with the governor's extension of the Open Meeting Act, allowing for remote meetings. So I think that covers that. First item is the approval for the minutes from the January 8th meeting. I did distribute those. Folks had a chance to take a look at those.
Yeah, they were nice and brief too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, not that you won't do a great job, Glenn, but Eric does a great job. So
Yeah, he does. I will be sure not to do as good a job as him.
yeah, I would. That's a strategic move on your part. Because I'm going to ask him tonight, or I was going to ask him tonight if he would take over because Brandon Kibbe, who is our clerk, has a bunch of conflict with this meeting time. And so he's actually thinking about stepping off the open space committee. So we're going to talk about this later on in number 6, committee positions, but we're going to probably have to rejigger our committee positions going forward. So I did review the minutes. I didn't have any comments on them. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written from the January 8th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Glenn. Moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Glenn,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Anna,
I
and the chair votes aye. So the meeting minutes have been approved. Next item is a discussion of 100 Townsend Harbor Road right of first refusal. The first notice that went out from the property owner's attorney apparently was flawed, so they had to repost it. I've redistributed that, so our 120-day clock is running, but it started running I think on January 17th or something instead of back in December. We, the Open Space Committee, have not been asked to render a decision, and that was a discussion point that we had on the 8th. That remains the same, although there's a lot of talk about this property, and that's why Jennifer and Dave are here with us, I'm sure. But we have not been asked to render a decision on it. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share another screen if I might. This is the parcel. This is 100 Townsend Harbor Road. This is Townsend Harbor Road. So it's got a lot of frontage on the road. It is farmland up in the front. It is listed as prime farmland, not unique or of state significance, but as we talked about at the last meeting, there's a move to classify by NRCS to classify other prime farmlands in towns, and the NRCS is going to do the heavy lifting on it. We talked about that at the last meeting. So we are all on board, as is Agricultural Commission, on board with the NRCS taking the charge on that. So the frontage part here, which is I think probably a hayfield, is good Woodbridge soils, Paxton soils. It's not wetland until you get into the back down in here into the woods, but the whole frontage is pretty open. It is listed an agreement, purchase and sale agreement for I think $400,000. And I think this may be a little preemptive, but I would like us to discuss whether the Open Space Committee has any opinion on whether this parcel should be subject to our exercising right of first refusal as a town, because it's been in chapter, it's coming out of chapter. So I'll lead with that, and we can start the discussion with the board members first, and then Jennifer and Dave, you guys, I'll give you a chance to weigh in as well. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
I'll start. Well, Lunenburg likes to, everyone, especially old timer residents, like to say we're a farming community. And yet we don't put our money where our money does not match our actions. And what do we say? This is a prime example of, a piece of land that, in my opinion, the town should keep it. We have the open space plan that we have those 5 or 6 categories of what it would take for the town to purchase land. I think that's outdated. I have very strong feelings about it, which I know we're gonna hopefully revise it and take other things into consideration. But it's farmland that we should try to preserve it, and the town can. I don't think there's enough. I don't think the leadership of town hears and put enough significance on what the citizens say, that they like being a farming community. Because the town, in a way, could purchase this land, put a deed restriction. Like, we could get creative and try to do better by the town citizens, but we don't. We just let it go. And what we forget to sometimes is that these land are in chapter, they have costed us a lot of money because there are taxes that we have not collected for a long period of time. When something comes out of chapter, we collect, I think, 5 years. Is that correct, Mike? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know offhand.
Yeah, you go back, but anyway, I think we need to exercise some pressure on the leadership of the town, which is the select board and the town manager, to say, Lunenburg, all Lunenburg residents want Lunenburg to be a farming town. How come you're not doing anything about it? And that's one of the things that committees and boards like us have an opportunity to do. We don't have a lot of power, but we do have our voice. And what is the designation of the open space committee? So my feeling for it is, yeah, we should try to keep it. And and if we don't keep it everything for farming, we can use some of those fields to be soccer field. Like, throughout between here and Westford, I like to drive back roads. There are many, little open space areas that has like 2 or 3 soccer fields that the town, the leagues use. It doesn't have to be anything big. And this is a great place that we could do something like that. So
Yeah.
my opinion is that we should ask the town to protect it and to get creative about it. It's my feeling. So I yield the floor.
Glenn or Tim, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback off what Anna said. I think this space, I mean, in keeping in line with her her mention of Lunenburg being a farming community and all that, which I do believe we try to adhere to. I think this space, you know, again, whatever we decide to do with it, I think would be a good contender for the town to have. And, you know, maybe, you know, Anna was saying soccer fields and keeping it preserved as it is. I was also thinking of maybe doing like it might be a good candidate to do like uh, a community garden. Like folks can come, they have a little plot you can set up there and grow vegetables and I've seen a bunch of community gardens in the past, and it doesn't take much. Honestly, you get like a little plot here on this open space land, and folks come and go, and they grow vegetables, and it kind of keeps in tune with the whole vision of the farming community. So, just throwing ideas out there, but I thought this parcel would have been pretty prime for that.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, and I'm sorry, I was speaking off the cuff. My thought was we could do a community garden, keep it as agriculture, and use some of the space for other
Yeah, oh,
things
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
Most,
definitely, because it's big.
yeah, most community gardens are usually like about an acre or a little more. I
Mhm.
think this parcel is 9 acres.
Wow, yeah,
9.1 acres, counting that back area. Yeah.
wow, and that's a pretty good deal then for 400,000.
Glenn, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, similar to before. I'm not overly familiar with the six criteria, but I I do recall from the previous discussions that it, you know, believed not to have hit all or even maybe most of the six criteria. So with that in mind, you know, I think it would be hard to vote to retain it. Having said that, I have an open mind to the whole process. I know briefly Mr. Passios has also spoken about the community garden. So yeah, I mean, I'm open to hear more discussion about it. And as part of, because I've historically I've always been in favor of open space, keeping open space. It seems, you know, like the logical thing to do if it was a, you know, a viable option. One thing I'm recently kind of, you know, struggling with is, you know, reconciling the desire to maintain the open space with the current talking points of, you know, this housing crisis as well as affordable housing. And the part I'm struggling with is it seems is the more open space that is tied up, whether it's through conservation or town-owned lands, the states. When I mentioned the MBTA's Communities Act several months ago. So the part I'm kind of struggling with is it seems that the state's solution to those issues is high density housing, and it seems, you know, there's a clear movement to basically move away from or eliminate, you know, not specifically in Lunenburg, but there's a clear movement against single family home zoning, and that concerns me. I'm a big proponent of, you know, people being able to, you know, buy a house, own the land, and, you know, not developing a rental class and just warehousing people in these high density housing. So those are just that's just the marbles rolling around in my head that I'm trying to reconcile with. And, you know, I would love to see a community use for that property. It is, I agree with everything everyone has said. It's a prime piece. But, you know, also it would be nice if it was even a possibility that could be
Sem panela
developed.
de pressão, fiz o melhor doce de leite do mundo. Para começar a nossa receita de hoje aqui na nossa forma.
If it could be developed into a neighborhood consistent with, say, the houses that are already in that neighborhood. I realize that doesn't happen in today's day and age, but that's it in a nutshell. But like I said, I'll just reiterate that I am opened up to it. I think the six criteria does present us a little bit of a barrier, and I will yield the floor.
Okay. We've mentioned it several times, and I just, for us and for the general public, I want to go through the six criteria. So criteria number one is the parcel is over 50 acres in size, greater or equal to 50 acres. This is a 9.1 acre parcel, so obviously it doesn't meet that one criteria. And there's no ranking of importance on these, which I I think is something that we should talk about going forward into the 2027 revision of the open space plan, because that's where this all comes from, is the open space plan. The second is the parcel contains important habitat resources. And I took that to mean that it's either mapped as estimated habitat or priority habitat by natural heritage, or it's in a biomap area. And this parcel is not in any of those. It's, you know, it's obviously there's some habitat there, but that important habitat resource criteria I don't think is met. The next is that it provides public access and/or recreation. It certainly could. It's got a lot of frontage, as I mentioned, on Townsend Harbor Road. Anna and others mentioned possibility of soccer fields. I mean, so it could provide public access and/or recreation, so it could meet that criteria. The fourth is important for scenic vistas or maintaining a rural character. A very subjective criteria, but it's a hayfield right now. It's an open area, and if you look at, let me go back here and share something with you. If you look at the surrounding area, you know, there are homes all around it, and there are some open areas. So this is kind of a semi-rural road, and this is definitely a larger open piece of land along this stretch of Townsend Harbor Road before you get up to Hickory Hills Lake. Let me go back here for a second. The next criteria is that it's contiguous to other protected open space or recreation resources, and it is not. And the final criteria supports local agricultural viability, which it does. So it could meet three of the six, excuse me, criteria. Probably not more than that. And I think that, you know, we generally say we've got to meet at least three and hopefully four of the six criteria. And this parcel probably meets three of the six criteria. So just to go over what the different criteria are. Okay. I think all the points that the board members brought up are great. There's a lot of potential uses for this. The price I was surprised at, quite honestly, 400,000 for 9.1 acres. Because you can get a 9-acre parcel with you know, A&R lots along the frontage. You can get, you know, 4 homes along there, probably 4 or 5 homes, and that's likely what would go up there. Glenn, would be, you know, single family homes, 1-acre single family zoned homes on septic systems and wells, probably. I'm going to ask.
They do have water. They have water down.
They have water down to the lake, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Is it all the way up and down the road? You know?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But they're still on septic up there. It's all
They're
septic,
still
right?
septic. Yeah, so they will
Right.
only need, you know, needing the well and doing the septic. It does present more challenges than if you just need the septic.
Yeah. Yeah. And Glenn, I work on a bunch of 40B projects, so I hear you. And my wife is the town planner, has been for 25 years in Littleton, and they're going through the MBTA community stuff as well. So I hear you about all that. And every town I work on a 40B project, which is affordable housing and market rate housing, they fight it tooth and nail. Everybody fights it tooth and nail. It's just amazing. We have a housing crisis, but you know, they want it somebody else's town, not their town.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, but it's also tough too, because I think a lot of people that do push for affordable housing are kind of thinking of houses and people having, you know, being able to afford a nice little house.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the warehousing of people and committing them to having to, you know, a good portion of their income being tied up in rent. You know, it might be affordable to them to you know, carry the rent, but they're unable to, you know, save up to buy a house. So those are just what I'm trying to reconcile in my head. I'm not really taking a position on those, but it seems like that's the push with this affordable housing, is to get people, you know, basically warehoused in these big high density housing complexes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working on several that are essentially large apartment buildings.
Right.
You know, and others that are single family detached homes. So there's a great variety of that kind of resource out there. I'm going to ask Jennifer Duffy, who's the chair of the agricultural committee in the town. She and I have corresponded a little bit, and I know Jennifer's on. I'm going to take it out of turn. We normally do this during open talk for community, but I think that I'd like to hear from Jennifer about the agricultural committee commission just had a meeting on this parcel on this subject, and I'd like to hear where they stand.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Jen Duffy, and I am chair for the Agricultural Commission. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think a lot of what the members here have already said, I would echo the same sentiments. I think we hear over and over again through different venues, like the surveys for the master's planning committee for the design of the master plan, surveys about the community liking open space, maintaining an agricultural community, a farming community. And for me, in my personal opinion, every time we have one of these farms, whether it's the orchards on Flat Hill or a hayfield or any of these turned into houses, is unfortunate in my opinion. I think that takes away from what we a lot of us say that we like about living here, and it's something we can't get back. There's no coming back from that. It's final, right? Um, and I also agree, I think, with some of the comments that have been made about the criteria for the open space. I mean, I think 50 acres is a lot of land to try to buy from something at once. I mean, how many parcels of that size are even available in Lunenburg, and how much would that cost? It seems like it might be prohibitive, but some of these smaller parcels may be more in scope of what we can, do piece by piece. And to Anna said about the coming out of chapter, that the town, not directly but indirectly, has invested, even if it's non-optional, into this property being in chapter 61A because of the taxes and maintaining that as a hayfield for the time that it's been there. And I think I'll say also, kind of for this property and in general, that I think we should pay more attention to properties that are in chapter, properties that may be eligible for APR, because APR is a long program to try to get into. And I did have some conversations about this property with both NRCS and APR. So this property does, like Michael was saying, have these soil mapping that has some of these farmland soils of local importance, and is being hayed. So it's possible that it would be kind of eligible for an APR program if we had the time or the resources to, pursue that, which is hard to do when we're in this situation. It's really something that I think needs to be done more proactively with owners of the property before coming to the point where they want to sell it. But that may be information that everyone here already knows, but it's just things I've learned along the way. So I think, and two, like, I also learned, and maybe this is also something that people know, that not necessarily community gardens would be an appropriate use of land under APR. So if a community garden is something that the town wants to pursue, which is something that we've been looking at in the Agricultural Commission, we've had a couple of nearby community farms that the people who run them come and talk to us about how they got started, challenges they face, lessons learned, successes that they've had, to try to get an idea of what might be most useful for this community. And it might be that people who live in apartments or more densely populated areas of town, or don't have, the space to maintain a garden at their house, can be part of the community garden. Or maybe it's people who live alone and like gardening and want that sense of community. I think it would offer a lot to the town to be able to do something like that. So it is something that we're looking into, and where we could do that, and what kind of structure we'd want to put in place. So in short, I think it would be, good to look into this property. I think that it does add to the rural character of the town, and also in a greater scope of things. I know that I saw in the open space goals or something document that you have about working towards kind of some of these similar goals. And I think that in some ways they align with the AgCom and wanting to maintain the farmland and maintain some of this open space. So I think it's something also it'd be nice to connect and work on together, how we can meet some of those goals that we might have in common for this or in the future. I know I said a lot of things there. I probably missed something I wanted to say, but thanks for listening.
Sure. A basic question for you, Jennifer, was the Agricultural Commission asked to give an opinion to the select board?
So the Agricultural Commission is not one of the groups that are designated to give input to the select board
Okay.
by the, whatever the procedures are for right of first refusal. So we were not asked, but I would offer my opinion at the select board meeting when this is discussed during public comment or committee comment.
And your board, your commission discussed this last week at your meeting, is that correct?
2 weeks ago, I think it was. We discussed this property and kind of right of first refusal in general. At the least, I think it would behoove us to better have a better understanding of the process and how what opportunities there are that we could partake either in this property or in others, and be more transparent to the town. I think a lot of these come and go kind of passively. I don't think that there's enough attention brought to some of these properties and some of these opportunities, and people don't really know about it until they're driving by and seeing a house go up and say, oh, there's another one gone, when we do have these conversations and it's just not in the public eye enough.
Okay, so you guys had a conversation about it, but you did not take a vote.
We did not take a vote.
Okay.
I'm not sure that we had been asked to take a vote.
Yeah, neither have we. And I think we are on open space, I think is on the list of
yeah, I think
parties that's supposed to get notice, and we consistently don't get notice. And we get asked to render an opinion, have a vote, at the last minute when we don't have and that's why I wanted to bring this up tonight and get the feeling. I'm going to go back to the open space committee, get the feeling of the committee members as to whether or not we discussed this in the January meeting. Back up for a second. And I think there was a general feeling that because we weren't asked to give an opinion on this, that we should not take a vote. And I don't know whether that is still the feeling of the open space committee this evening.
Oh, Glenn, do you know why they haven't, the planning office hasn't officially requested an opinion from the open space?
I guess I do not know. Maybe I should have brought that up. That might be on me. But so no, I don't.
In fact, we did not receive this through the planning office. We received this by the chair of the Conservation Commission, Mary Wilson, who also sits on this committee, sending it over to me. And then the update where it was noticed that they didn't do the first notice correctly and they had to redo it in January. Dave Passio sent that to me. So I've not received anything from the planning office or the board of or the select board.
Okay, I know it. We have discussed it, and I'm confident that that Open Gov was going to be, hopefully the cure-all, where it would be like a checkoff box, and it seemed to me whoever wanted to be on the notification list would then get an email. So I think that's in the works, and I think even the assessor's office is looking through. They have to go through, and I don't know if audit's the right word, but they've got to go through all the chapter lands and kind of update it. But
yeah, and I know we've had a lot of turnover at town and on staff and town government and everything. That's things fall through the cracks as you change administrators, as you change people at the staff at the planning board. We've been talking, Mary and I have been talking to the staff at conservation to add a checkbox on the list of things that Sophie looks at when she gets an application, and have the applicant check whether or not the parcel that they're discussing is in chapter.
Yeah, and I apologize for not bringing more focus on that, but I think it would be fair to say that the you know the planning board would be looking for direction on the issue on the property through the open space. So
Okay.
I think that certainly would be fair to say. But just going back to some of the fine points that Jen had made. One as far as a community garden goes too, I think that would be, to me, again, just speaking what's on my mind, I think that would be a tough one to sell, because it seems like there's a lot of, one of the comments I hear through a lot of the different meetings, maybe specifically the selectmen's, is that they apparently hear a lot of feedback that the town owns a lot of land or controls a lot of land. So it would seem to me there's, and particularly where a lot of homes have a lot of property, that there's plenty of room for people to have gardens or other areas, town property, where a community garden could be used. But all the other points about the property are spot on. The community garden one, I think, would be, I'd be open to hearing more discussions on that. But I think the main point, like all the points were good, but the one that is the standout point is the pre-planning. If there, and that was one of my points of speaking with this before, was we really need to vet the properties that are currently in chapter, and we could pre-plan of whether you even wanted them at all. And so that point she made there, I think, is key. That's a very important point, and that would have helped us, as she said, on this, preparing for this property. But some of my concerns, just thinking, is that the current budget situation in town, I'd be wondering where this $400,000 would come from. Would it be a raise and appropriate, or are there like grant funds available?
So one thing, is it okay if I speak for a moment, Mike?
Sure.
Okay. So Glenn, the idea of open space, it's not only, there are many it serves many purposes. And when we think, oh, everyone in Lunenburg has, most households in Lunenburg have property. What we lose sight sometimes is that we don't have a lot of community space where people gather. And, and that's the difference between a bedroom community. There is soulless with no community connections, where people, come and go. And in the long term, those things do play a role on the health of the town financially, and why not? So creating spaces that people can gather and talk and have a community that's supportive, it's needed. We talk about playgrounds. I talk a lot about how, Lunenburg, like, my husband and I are empty nesters. We have this big house, and and we're looking to, hopefully we're going to live at least another 30, 40 years. Hopefully we're just, we're in the cusp, or halfway into our lives. So, there is a need for spaces like for us like that. I'll imagine, and I'll bring you, I know you moved to town fairly recently, right? And, where do you go to meet people? It's, it's not easy. So having a place that people can go and make community connections is important. When I went to the agricultural committee meeting, when they brought the lead of the community garden from Hudson, and I actually asked her, she felt that the community garden, they have a very successful program there. They have a little over an acre. And if the community garden was more, done for community connections, or, people there don't have a space to plant, that they go to plant that. And she said it's mostly community connections. Hudson has a lot of, higher density, but these are people that a lot of times they have a garden in their house, and they come in, they have a garden too. So and in terms of cost for the community to create, for the town to create that space, a community garden is pretty low, cheap. Let's just put it that way. So, you know, they have over, like Hudson, they have over 50 families there. And they're talking about families, so people come with their kids. So it's pretty impactful. If you look at the numbers for our senior center serves about 1,000 people a year, different people. You know, and you can look at our budget. The high school athletic things that serves the town, the school athletics. They have about 350 kids that serves on that, and that we spent almost $500,000. And you know, I'm just talking about our cost on creating that community connection. So I think a community garden is a good investment, especially because how cheap it is to maintain it. So I just wanted to say that. Sorry.
I don't know how to raise my hand if it's okay if I said something again or not.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thanks. I just had a couple of thoughts too about the community garden that could add. Like one thing that we've learned through the other community garden leaders that have come to talk to us is one of the challenges is water. So for property that the town may own throughout the town that doesn't have access to water, there's no well. If it's not on a place where we can get the town water, then that can also be a challenge for where to establish a community garden. And another part I think that's important to acknowledge about the value of a community garden in town is for education. I think there's an opportunity there to have education either in partnership with the school or with kids, or even just community members who would like to learn how to garden, and that's not something that they learned growing up, to have that community value. So I just wanted to add those two thoughts to the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Glenn?
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with the values of the community garden. I just think as far as a selling point for that particular piece of property, it might be tough because you got to drive there, and the good point about the access to water. But I think where those would thrive is, say, hypothetically, if say the Brooks house happened to not be where it is, that area could be a perfect place for like a community garden or a community space, close proximity to the library, the Lunenburg Adult Activity Center, the schools, or even if hypothetically, if say the TC Passios building was in need of extreme repairs or maybe needed to be, taken down, and that whole area was opened up, I think those areas would be primary locations for a community garden where it would thrive. And hit all the points, the elegant points that have been made. And one other thing that came to mind after hearing more comments, like my wife did start a garden last year, and one of the problems is we can't eat 15 cucumbers in a week. So that, I think that's one of the advantages of a community garden is even just to counterpoint my own point is, like, even if you had property, it would be nice to have use for all the produce. But yeah, I do one of the points that hangs with me is just that the current budget, again, I kind of touched upon it with the two existing buildings that are in need of being addressed, as well as the proposed annex to the town hall, and of course the quandary the school budget is in. As with all of these type of things, whether you're talking about the school budget or the new town hall, it's never the right timing. And it's just same thing with this piece of property is, the timing is tough if it's going to be purchased, straight out of taxpayer funds or town budget.
Can I talk a little more, Tom?
Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
So, I dispute quite a bit whenever I have the opportunity about Lunenburg's financial situation, because I see things different. One, government should never have excess of money. in my personal opinion. They didn't work for it. We did. But Lunenburg is going to have over this fiscal year is going to have about $2 million in free cash. Our previous town manager and the interim town manager who just left, his proposed budget had $500,000 of money put aside just in case. I don't know what. Before the previous town manager took over, we used to have a pretty tight budget where we didn't have a lot of free cash. And when the last town manager came about, she had different approach to money and to how to manage her budget, which is her budget, but it doesn't mean I don't observe things, right? And what it tends to happen a lot was she liked having a lot of free cash. We never had as much capital projects done other than under her tenure. And what's the problem with that is, there's different ways that when you own a $25 to $30 million budget or whatever it is, $45 million budget, that you can do. You can you plan your budget according to your last year's budget, not your actuals. Your free cash comes in and you keep it as free cash, but free cash is really, if it's coming from new growth, that's regular, that's going to be part of the tax levy. So there are a lot of things that someone who's putting a budget together who likes to practice safe budgeting by padding everything, that you end up with, so just you have an idea, $2 million in free cash. It's like, the town budget and the school budget is about 20, it's like 10% of either way of their budget. It's a lot of money. And so I don't care for that practice, because what it doesn't allow us to do is to be strategic with how we use our money. Before the previous town manager, we built the turf with regular borrowing. We built the DPW building. We replaced heater. We did so much, and I have a list of those projects. But then the other town manager came about, and we never did anything else because we were keeping everything under free, So I think we need to really look at our budget and tighten things up. But when if someone tells me that they have 10% of their revenue in free cash that was not properly allocated, I raise my eyebrows about it. So I don't think Lunenburg is in such a dire, and it's so crazy to think that we pass an override of $1 million and we have $2 million left in the budget. How crazy is that? It is insulting, that's how our approach. But anyway, no, I'm not going to go down that path, but I just want to give you that contrast that the town, and about the school budget, that school budget that showed to be $3 million, she didn't put all the grants that we get, the Title I grants, and the excuse, or the explanation, we don't know if it's going to happen. It's like, let's raise alarm everywhere so I can get everything I want. So if we're going to talk budget and everything, I'm ready to talk about it, but I don't think that's an explanation for why we shouldn't move forward in this project, this property.
Kim, any thoughts?
Sorry about that. I just had to find the
Yeah.
But no thoughts from me on that. I think all of what's been said has been pretty on point.
Okay. Dave, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I just want to make a couple of very quick comments. You guys have covered everything that I hoped you would. Just know that I am going to continue to play the watchdog from afar, and any little piece of information that seems to be stuck in one spot that really should be disseminated across committees, I will still fill that role. Because if we don't get this information spread out to the people that should be hearing about it as quickly as possible, then you're already out of a position to do anything about it by the time they hear about it. That's why I jumped on this one in particular. to Anna's comments about the budgeting and stuff, one of the downsides to the way we've developed budgets, I agree with her. We've had too much money tied up in the budget that flows out to free cash at the end of the year. It's prudent to have some, but you don't need that much. But another thing that does is it doesn't allow us to do the preemptive work to be ready to jump on an opportunity like this and know where we can already know where we might be able to get the funding from. Because 120 days is not a lot of time for a municipality to pull off a purchase of the property, unless they've got a rainy day fund that's specifically set aside. CPA could potentially assist with this also. So, you know, I more or less see this property slipping away unless somebody really jumps hard on the select board and they get on the bandwagon. But I think it's another example of the work that needs to be done to be ready for the next one. One last comment, and that is that the state has tasked the assessor's office with evaluating all chapter lands in the town of Lunenburg before the next tax year. So every single property in chapter is going to be reviewed, verified that it's still eligible. So that should bring together a very comprehensive list of those chapter properties, and that may be a place where a committee or maybe one member from 2 or 3 different committees could be looking and identifying uses for some of those properties if they were to come out of chapter. Thank you.
And Dave, is that before June 30th of this year? Before the fiscal year starts July 1st?
No, because that tax rate's already, well, I'm not sure, Mike.
I didn't know whether it was FY, I don't know, was FY 25 or 26?
Yeah, I think it's 26.
Okay.
Okay, because we have we should have a town-wide reval coming up pretty soon too, I think. And, you know, everybody watch out. This piece of property is a prime example. If you look on the property card, its assessed value is $75,000. It's selling for $400,000. So 2 years from now, that's going to calculate into property values and push them up again. And every single property is doing that. Case in point, my property on Whiting Street, valued for this tax year at $315,000. It's under agreement, I believe, for just under $400,000. So, you know, the numbers are not going to go down. They're going to continue up. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. So the 120-day clock started on January 17th. Our next meeting, the Open Space Committee's next meeting, is the 12th of next month, so we'd still be within that clock time frame. I didn't know what was the will of the committee tonight as to whether or not, Jennifer, just a second, whether or not we wanted to vote on something tonight and not having been asked to, or if we want to, you know, wait another meeting schedule. Jennifer, you have something to say about that particular subject?
Yeah, I think that when I had asked Annie about this coming to a topic for the select board, she had indicated that it would be brought to the agenda for the select board the end of February or the beginning of March. So in case that impacts your timeline and your decisions here.
Yeah, if it comes up to the select board at the end of February, beginning of March, that's when they would ask the other boards to weigh in, and they usually give you the courtesy of a meeting date. So we could push this off to the March meeting. Hopefully we have a quorum and be able to do something about it, or we could act on it tonight. I didn't know what was the will of the committee. Yes, Glenn.
So would we actually have the time to purchase it if we wanted to? Like, would it have to go before what, the May town meeting?
Yeah. Yeah, but I think the way it goes is the select board with town council votes to go ahead and exercise right of first refusal pending town meeting vote. And that, I think Brandon schooled me on this a while ago, and I don't know if I have it completely straight. I think that forestalls you have 120 days to exercise your right of first refusal. The select board voting on it would be exercising the right of first refusal. And of course, it would be pending town meeting vote. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also am not, to have, real strong feelings, because this is essentially just, asking to put it before the voters. I mean, we're not making a $400,000 decision. It's simply putting it before the voters, whether we, approve or, suggest or, back the purchase. So, I'm fine waiting to the next meeting. How many members are we actually missing? Like tonight?
3.
So, yeah, I mean, it would carry more weight if it was a more robust participation in the meeting and in the vote. But and nothing says like we couldn't have, like, if we failed that quorum, we could then maybe have like an emergency meeting or something.
We could. I mean, tonight, just so everybody knows, Brandon was not able to make the meeting. I didn't hear from Eric, which is unusual. He's usually at these meetings.
Yeah.
Mary is the chair of the Conservation Commission, and I think they were off schedule this month. And so she actually probably has a Conservation Commission meeting tonight because they had to push the schedule around for this month. So that's why we're missing those 3 members.
And from that previous conversation, I mean, and that's why I really wouldn't be too uncomfortable having it go before the voters, because, I think that's the consensus. That was kind of the consensus of everyone at the previous meeting, as well as, tonight's consensus, as well as the guests, that, it's really a nice piece of property.
And in the end, we make a recommendation to the select board, and
Yeah.
the planning board makes a recommendation, the Conservation Commission makes a recommendation. It's just a recommendation to the board for their consideration. We have no voting authority to do anything other than that.
Right.
Jennifer.
I think too, there is also a pathway that if the property was to be purchased through the conservation, that does not require a vote by the town. The conservation can purchase it directly. I was just talking to town council about this at office hours earlier this week, and that was my understanding from him.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk to Mary about this further. I think they would be hard pressed to take this parcel for conservation because it doesn't meet any of the criteria that they have for significant conservation land.
Okay.
I mean, it does meet the agricultural criteria, and it certainly meets some open space criteria. So, but conservation is different because they'd be looking at habitat value, and the habitat value of a hayfield is actually fairly low, except for raptors. And it's not that we're lacking that kind of open area in the town.
Yeah,
Okay,
Mike,
so,
if I could throw in just one real quick comment.
go ahead, Dave.
I think what Jen's actually saying, and this is something that AgCom has not moved forward with for a number of years, and I won't get into why, but they've had it on their agenda for a number of years, stating that AgCom can hold funds and can hold ownership of agricultural lands. So it wouldn't be conservation land, it would be agricultural commission land.
Right, but then does that require a town meeting vote?
I do not believe so. If the agricultural, I would stand corrected. It would need to be checked into, but I do not believe so because AgCom can hold funds appropriated from certain entities for the purposes allowed.
Jen, did you talk to town council about that at all?
I do not know the specifics about if AgCom was to hold land, how that would look in terms of requiring or not requiring a town vote. I really only talked about the different pathways for the land, if it was to come through, regular town vote, or if it was through conservation. So I would have
Okay.
to check back with the town council.
Yeah, that would be a good conversation to have with Adam next time you get an opportunity. And I haven't been in to see him for a while, so I can also try to get on his calendar. Okay. I'm kind of with Glenn. I think we're okay from a time frame to wait until the March meeting. The downside is getting quorum. We have to make sure we get enough people at the meeting to be able to take a vote. Honor, Tim, do you feel different than that?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. So as we did last month, we had a much more robust discussion tonight, but let's table a recommendation vote until the next meeting. Okay. And let's move on. It's already 8:26. I don't want to, we've generally been pretty good about keeping to an hour. So let's see if we can run through a few things here. The next item is reports from other boards. And unless, Tim or Glenn, unless you've got something for us, we can go ahead.
I'll just say I'll do a better job, speaking about this at the meeting, and just trying to rack my brain. I think I probably said during my last update, not this most recent meeting, was that I gave them the update that we were talking about it, and that so I have talked about it during the meetings and told them that the process, our decision was in process. So it's, I could do a little better job, structuring it in the future. But
and the one thing we did talk about, I think even started prior to you sitting on this committee, was having joint committee meetings especially with planning.
Yeah, and the chairman did say, absolutely, of course, anytime, the open space wants to have a joint meeting, we're open to that anytime.
Okay.
No hesitation whatsoever to do that. So, I mean, even if you want me to suggest you put it on for the next, the next meeting or.
Well, let's see what the Board of Selectmen says. If the select board, meets in the next 2 weeks and they want a decision in a week, and that puts us into the first week of March instead of the second, then we probably should go to planning and see if we can't do a joint meeting earlier than March 12th.
Yeah.
Okay. Tim, anything from Parks? Or are we good?
I believe we are good for now. We're meeting, I believe next Wednesday. So if there's anything on that agenda that comes up, I'll make sure to bring it to your attention.
Okay, thanks. And you can bring it to the next meeting too as well. All
Sure.
right, great. Dave and Jennifer, we did most of the citizen comments earlier on. Unless you have something you want to add right now, we're gonna skip through that.
No, this is a great discussion. So thanks for having it.
Yeah.
Ditto for me. Thank you for taking on the conversations.
Yeah, and thanks for the heads up too, Dave. I appreciate it. Committee position, something that I opened up at the beginning of the meeting. We talked about Brandon is making a decision as to whether or not to stay on the committee. He's currently the clerk. I was hoping to have Eric on and see if I couldn't goad him into being the clerk. The other thing I'd like to talk about is right now, Anna, you're the vice chair and I'm the chair. And, I'm certainly open to playing musical chairs. I've been the chair now for a couple of years.
No, I like you being the chair. I personally do. I mean, there are other members, but you bring a good wealth of knowledge on of the field on open space. I think I signed up to be vice chairs. I think to attend the meetings. If no one is around, I can run a meeting. But you have a lot of knowledge, and I appreciate your guidance on everything. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. I mean, we can keep the status quo. We can talk about it again at the next meeting as well when we get more members here, and we'll probably have a decision from Brandon at that point in time. He's the key, the original key to the open space committee. So it would be a big loss losing Brandon.
Yeah, I'm planning to reply to his email to make a case for him to stay.
Yeah, me too. And you got to stay on as vice chair because now that I'm semi-retired, I plan on taking more vacations. So you're going to
Ooh, I
be,
like that for you.
you're going to be sitting in the chair. Okay. Um, Next is the meeting schedule. Right now, we've got the March 12th meeting as a remote meeting. We talked at the last meeting in January about maybe on occasion going back in person. There was some feeling from some of the committee members that that would be a worthwhile exercise. So right now, I've got the April 9th meeting scheduled to be in person. It could be a hybrid meeting. It could be in person. Don't know yet. But just to keep everybody's head in this one, we'll go remote in March, and maybe when the weather turns in April, unless we get a nice early April snowstorm, um, we'll go in person. Okay. Um, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. Glenn,
aye.
Anna,
I.
Tim?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Dave. Dave's gone, I think, but thank you both for attending tonight. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next month.
See you next month.
Sounds great. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.